back at 6 p.m. Shall I call to order the Liquor Control Board meeting? We're already in chambers?
We are.
Okay, I will call it to order then. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. I imagine I'll be inviting our clerk, Jenny Willingham, up.
Yes.
Jenny's at the table.
So before you are 2 continuations of third class. So they were approved on April 7th and 3 and March 25th. And what, just like the cover sheet says, that the Department of Liquor and Lottery gives an option to pay at the entire fee at once or in 6-month intervals. So these 2 establishments pay the 6-month intervals, so they just need a continuation of that. They'll pay the second half.
No concerns from staff?
No.
No.
All right. Any questions, concerns from council?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve items A and B for Standing Stone and VFW?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank
Motion
you.
carries. Thank you. That is the end of the Liquor Control Board meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That meeting is adjourned. So it is 6:02 p.m. I'll call to order the Winooski City Council meeting. Agenda review is up first. Any concerns with the order of this evening's agenda?
No.
Any concerns?
No.
So public comment will be after the event agenda review. Yep.
Actually, I don't know if this should go with the consent agenda or with this, but I'm wondering if we can pull consent agenda item H, Inclusion and Belonging Commission appointments, because we have some folks in the room
Yeah, that's good
to
with
the
me.
regular agenda.
We will move that up before item A, just to get that one out of the way while folks are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other concerns, let's move to public comment then. Sounds like we've got someone in the room.
You come on up.
I'm Judy Lanson. I live on Rowland Court. I actually have three things, 2 of them quick. I'd like to commend the community services staff for the operation at the pool this summer. It was great summer at the pool. We had a lot of hot weather. There were only a couple of incidents that I know where the pool had to be closed for something other than weather or a swim meet, which was, I think, an improvement from the past. And it was a really good summer. The lifeguard staff was really fantastic with people. I was paying attention to how they interfaced with folks, and they did a great job. So thanks for that. The other thing is the direction signs on Weaver Street. I know other people have commented on those, but I do think it's a great service to provide, even though sometimes they're pointing in the wrong direction or on the wrong block or something. That's okay. So thanks for that too. The other thing I'm particularly concerned about has to do with the Main Street Revitalization Project, particularly the street trees, which a lot of them have been already planted. And I know, I recall from initially when we received the big grant for the trees, that I inquired and I was told there was going to be money in that grant for maintenance of the trees, which is a big issue with me. I don't think it's practical or prudent to plant trees if you're not going to take care of them. So the trees are being planted. I did have the opportunity to talk with the guy who was watering them with a big water tank truck today. He works for the contractor. And then another guy stopped and we talked, and he told me who planted the trees, which is one of their subcontractors, I guess, a landscape company. And he told me a few other details. I am concerned that those trees continue to be watered appropriately and regularly right through the time that the ground freezes this fall, which is what is strongly recommended for newly planted trees. And I'm also concerned that when they get mulched, which I presume they are going to be, that they be mulched appropriately, not with the mulch all humped up around the trunk. You're not supposed to do that. It's common knowledge, but the landscape companies around continue to do it. And I just want to make sure that we're going to take care of those trees. I think some of the grant money got canceled. I think that's what someone told me a few months ago, so I don't know what kind of money we have left to pay for maintenance of the trees, but I hope they're taken care of. That's it.
Thank you for the comments, Judy.
She said thank
John,
you
I
for
don't
the
know if there's
comments.
anything you want to share now, or if we should just follow up with Judy afterwards.
Sure, yeah, I can follow up on a few things. So one, the grant funding, that was specific to the installation costs of the tree construction. There was no long-term maintenance funding available for that. So the trees themselves, so they do have a 1-year warranty once installed. So they will be watered by the contractor daily. We have recommended they install the green gator bags that you see around on some newly planted trees, just to help protect them over the weekends, and the contractor is looking at that. And internally, we will likely, we're looking at installing those probably past the warranty period. We just started discussing that today. And then as far as the mulch comment, so the tree planting detail actually doesn't include any mulch, and it will have sort of a stone, like a pea gravel planter pit. And it's called out very specifically on the details that they have to stay away from the actual tree itself. Because as you mentioned, Judy, that does impact the tree health. So that is called out pretty specifically. And then we have a landscape designer on the project that they do site inspections. They'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. So those are, I think, most of the items. But yep, noted, Judy, on the long-term maintenance. That's going to be something we'll have to keep an eye on internally.
Okay, John. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with public comment in the room?
Yes, there's one more person coming up. Stan.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Lapierre. I've lived in Winooski since the late 80s. I live on the Fountain Street on the first block off Main. Coming for a couple of reasons. Recently, I got a parking ticket in Winooski. Shocked to see it was $30, 50% higher than Burlington's tickets. I don't know how they got so excessively high. I have no idea how they got from whatever they were to $30, but it just seems really, doesn't seem that friendly. I mean, that's the first ticket I got in Winooski, so. But it was just really shocking to go out to my car and see that it was a $30 ticket. Burlington only charges $20, which I think is outrageous in itself. It should be like 10 or 15. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that to change that, because it's probably already said and done, and I don't know if anything can be changed about that, but it just seems really excessively high. So that's my first thing. Second thing, I live on the Fountain Street. There's cars speeding down the road, a lot of really loud vehicles, motorcycles, trucks. And I was thinking, well, maybe the city of Winooski, like St. Albans, should consider creating a noise ordinance, which doesn't seem like that outrageous to do. And the way it works is you can just go online and look at the, St. Albans Police Department, how it works. But it seems like if people got charged $150 and more, they say that's what they charge, then I think that would really discourage people from being really loud when they're driving through town. mean, people are just gunning. I mean, they're doing things that, are making it really loud. They're gunning their vehicles, they're gunning their motorcycles. And a lot of it happens on LaFountain Street where I happen to live, and I'm retired, so I hear it a lot. I mean, it's just really loud. So, I mean, has the city ever considered creating a noise ordinance to keep the noise down from these vehicles? Because in this small town, you can hear it. I mean, I'm on the Fountain Street. I can hear it downtown when they're racing through downtown. So it's just really, really significantly disturbing. We can't do anything about the jets, but that's something that the city could do something about if they have the gumption to do it and thought it was important enough. And I think if I need to go around with a petition, maybe I would do that if that's what needs to happen for me to make a change. But I don't want to do that if it's just going to end up being just a waste of my time. Third thing.
So we do have a noise ordinance already.
What does
If
that
you want
look
to
like?
leave, I don't have it like memorized offhand. If you want to leave your contact information with staff, I can follow up with you and share that with you. And also, one thing I would recommend, if there are sort of repeat offenders driving
I'm
down
sure
your
there
street
are.
that do this, you can call the non-emergency police line and report that. If we find a pattern, sometimes it makes it easier for the police to be able to intercept somebody in the moment.
Okay, that makes sense. And I would like to see the noise ordinance. Lastly, over the weekend, our windows are open, it's summertime, and 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had to shut our windows because of the smoke that was coming in our windows from fire pits or fires. I don't know where they are. I didn't go out and chase down where they were coming from, but I mean, I wonder if the city has thought about considering ending fire pits like Burlington did, because it's just really awful to have to shut your windows in the middle of the summer because somebody's smoking out your yard. And this isn't the first time this has happened to me. I mean, there was a time where we basically had to vacate our house because so much smoke got in our house that we had to air it out before we could go back into our house. So, I mean, it's a problem. I mean, Burlington eliminated it for a reason. And I think that Winooski should think about it because I don't know why people are doing fire pits. I thought they were supposed to be in the spring and in the fall, but this isn't the spring or the fall. So I don't really understand why fire pits are being burned or fires are being burned in Winooski, especially when people like me and other people have to breathe it in. We breathe all that secondhand smoke in. And that's all I have to say. And I'm assuming the National Guard thing will be coming up in future meetings and stuff. What's going to happen with the National Guard? That
You mean the
property?
armory?
Yeah, the armory.
There's skill. Christine, if you want to answer.
I think it's September 18th.
Correct.
The Development Review Board will be reviewing that project, and that will be a public meeting,
Great.
open to anyone to attend.
Great. So it's the 18th.
Yes,
All right.
I'm pretty sure that's a Thursday.
Yes.
All right.
at 6:30 p.m.
All right. And thank you all very much. I really appreciate you listening to me. And if there's anything that can be done for me to follow up to make things happen, I'd be happy to spend my time doing that because I'm retired and I have time.
When,
We'll take, sorry.
Christine, do you want to talk about the parking fine? Or do you want me to?
Well, I don't know his specific situation, like what he was ticketed for.
Well,
Elaine, if
I
there's
was
anything
parking
you
in
want to
front
share.
of down by Sneakers. My sister had come in town. We parked down by
Okay,
Sneakers.
yeah. So we did raise the fine in the last year because we were finding people sitting at the meter all day long and not paying because the fine was lower than the cost of actually paying for the meter usage. Tonight on the agenda, we are actually going to consider lowering that a little bit because of comments that we're hearing in the downtown through businesses.
Yes, it doesn't seem very friendly to invite people in and then if they screw up by not forgetting to pay or not paying, to get fined $30. Because that made my lunch $80 instead of being
Yeah, I
50.
appreciate the comment.
Well, I'm glad
Timing.
I'm glad you're thinking about that. And
It's on the
considering-
agenda tonight.
Yeah. Good timing.
My timing was good.
That's great.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? And if you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand or chat feature to let us know.
No other public comment in the room.
Okay, seeing no more comment, we'll move on to our consent agenda. So we have already made the decision to pull H off into the regular agenda. Are there any other concerns with the consent agenda this evening?
No.
No.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to council reports. Aurora, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. The Inclusion and Belonging Commission met on August 21st. And while we did not have a quorum, we did have enough folks present to discuss with Dave Roberts the EB funding project, which there was also a survey and other data collected on it, but wanted to get the Inclusion and Belonging Commission perspective. So that was a really good conversation, but we couldn't get to our other regularly planned items. We are going to thus have a special meeting on September 24th. And since we have on the agenda this evening, renewing and appointing some new members, we should not have that issue with a quorum again.
Thank you.
Infrastructure Commission met on August 21st. There was some public comment asking about truck traffic and line striping, as well as traffic calming. The commissioners reviewed some candidate streets for the next traffic calming assessment, and they voted unanimously to move forward with West Street assessment and potentially looking the full corridor rather than just a single block along the West Street. So full north-south bookend on that. And there was also some good discussion about the work plan for FY26. And I see that that's on the agenda later. We'll FY25 wrap up and FY26 updates later. So happy to go into any additional items as people have, as commissioners or attendees have questions or thoughts on that. So we are moving our meeting this month. The date will likely be Wednesday the 17th, but that will be announced once we finalize it. So just keep an eye on your regular notification channels from the city for what date that will be in the agenda.
Great. Thomas.
Safe, Healthy, Connected People met on August 5th, which feels very, very long ago. I don't know if it feels the same way for you, Ray. We didn't have a quorum, so we didn't dive into the things that had been scheduled for that night, but we did talk about a really cool program that I'm not sure if everybody's aware of, so I wanted to share that. At City Hall and the O'Brien Center, there are bins that can collect plastic bags, which doesn't sound as interesting as maybe I'm presenting it. But what I thought was really cool about it is you can drop off all of those types of plastic bags that you can't put into your normal recycling. So think like Ziploc bags, plastic packaging when you order something online, grocery bags. And then there's a company that the city has partnered with, T-Rex, trucks, that then uses those to create park benches and things like that. So I just thought it was really cool. I wasn't sure how many folks in the city were aware that a program like that existed. But I, at home now, I'm saving my Ziploc bags instead of throwing them in the trash. So that was just really something nice to learn about the city trying to continue to move forward and be green. So Great, thanks to you and your team for coming up with all of that. Downtown Winooski did meet, also did not have a quorum, but we did discuss just a few updates from Melissa. The Vermont Downtown Coalition, which Downtown Winooski is a part of, is going to get a 20-hour position person to do lobbying on behalf of Vermont downtowns for the next upcoming legislative session. They're requesting $1,000 from each downtown member, and then a private donor is filling the rest of the salary. The $1,000 from Downtown Winooski isn't a concern because it's actually the money that we're already giving to the Downtown Coalition, which enables Downtown Winooski to get that $25,000 from the Downtown Coalition. So hopefully that will just result in some more good programming coming to Winooski. Talking of programming, the Mosaic gift card competition, which I'm sure everybody here has seen, but if residents aren't aware, you can save your receipts and earn prizes at the end of each month if you're shopping downtown. Got a bunch of coverage in all the major networks and with the written forms of media in Vermont as well. So that was great, just continuing the conversation that Winooski is still open for business during the Main Street construction. We also started to talk about Halloween, which is coming up surprisingly soon. I don't think it will shock members of council to know that Halloween, we spend more money on Halloween than we bring in through fundraising. So Melissa's dedicating some time to try to think of some more revenue sources. Obviously, you know, we've made sure that revenue is never an issue with having Halloween happen, but we would like it to be at least cost neutral. So she's going to be working on that. So expect to see some things from Downtown Winooski about some fundraising opportunities. With the parking agenda coming up that we're going to be talking about today, the board reached out to me, a lot of members individually, some comments I've shared with Elaine and with Justin, just about many members of the board are happy that we're considering reducing the parking fees. The majority of them wonder if there are some other issues that are at hand as well with parking and customer service in the city. Don't want to dive too much into it because it does concern staff, and if council would like to speak with me individually, happy to talk more. But again, I did share those concerns with Elaine and with Justin, who oversees the parking department. And that's all for Downtown Winooski.
Charlie?
Yeah, the Housing Commission met last week on the 26th. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. There's a much more in-depth update coming later this evening around housing goal updates from Jasmine. So that's it.
All right, thank you. The Planning Commission met last week, received an introduction to the process for the comprehensive plan update. The Finance Commission is still seeking members. We haven't had a meeting since our last council meeting, I think. But yes, if any members of the public are interested in contributing to discussions and policy that support economic vitality in Winooski, please reach out. We still have, I think, 4 openings, 2 regular, 2 alternate. With that, I will pass it to Elaine for city updates.
All right, thanks. So yes, the gentleman's timing could not be better. Armory update. The Champlain Housing Trust is proposing a 2-phase development at 255 Fountain Street in Winooski. That's the old Armory site, or that is still owned by the National Guard. The idea is to create permanently affordable housing for families, including 24 rental apartments in 4 3-story buildings, centered around a green space and parking area, with a mix of 3 and 4 bedroom units designed for large families. Phase 2 will add 6 affordable shared equity homes for sale in 3 duplexes. The project emphasizes neighborhood compatibility while addressing critical housing needs. The Development Review Board had a meeting scheduled for August 21st to review the sketch plans for this project, but had to reschedule due to a lack of quorum. Lack of quorum means they didn't have enough members from the board who could attend, that they would need to make a decision, and that was due to their scheduling conflicts. That meeting has been rescheduled to Thursday, September 18th at 6:30 p.m. Committee members are encouraged to join all public meetings. You can attend in person or online. To be alerted to when public meetings are happening, please subscribe to our news updates and meeting notices at winooskivt.gov/subscribe. You can also find any of the upcoming meetings at winooskivt.gov/agenda center. Agenda center is one word with no spaces. That's all.
All right, thank you, Elaine. Moving on to our regular items. First, we will have the item H from consent that we moved, the Inclusion and Belonging Commission appointments. Jenny, would you like to come back up and give us an overview, please? Maybe we have some of these folks attending.
Thank you. We're waiting for one, but there might be some online.
Megan is online, I believe.
Megan, okay.
Yeah, and to give just a brief intro, mostly captured in the packet. We're excited to be welcoming Harley kind of back onto a reappointment due to his schedule changing, as well as bringing on King as a member, Megan as an alternate, and River as an alternate. I think River's, yeah.
Nice.
So
Megan, if you wanted to introduce yourself, we've brought you over on the Zoom. You feel free to speak. You don't have to either if you don't want to.
No, happy to. Thank you so much. My name is Megan Diffenderfer. I use she, her pronouns, and really was thrilled at the opportunity to apply and excited for the work ahead. I don't know, I have lived in Winooski since 2021, but I also had a spell in 2017, and I worked for the city of Burlington, so excited to extend my work over here.
Happy to have you. Thank you for your interest and your dedicating some time to this. Did we have anyone else in the room?
No.
Okay. Well, any questions or comments from council?
No. Excited you're getting some members.
yeah.
Thank you for
All
the
right.
interest.
Do I have a motion to approve the Inclusion and Belonging Commission appointments?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Brent, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Appointments approved. You're officially on the board, Megan. All
Hooray.
right. Thank you. Okay, next up is regular item A. We had warned a public hearing for the ordinance update, the inclusionary zoning amendments to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations. Sorry, I didn't use the right phraseology. A public hearing has been warned to consider amendments to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations. So this is a chance for members of the public to share comments or questions about the amendments. And then after this public hearing piece, in the next item will be council discussion. Since we do have some attendees, Revi, would you mind doing a brief overview of the amendments for any members of the public who are new to this discussion?
So, let's see here. The proposal in front of you for amendments relate to inclusionary housing requirements, which would require a set aside for affordable housing with any project that has 20 or more dwelling units. The set aside depends on the pricing of the rental or for sale housing units. And with that too, the regulations go into further detail about the inclusionary housing standards, certain trade-offs if a developer includes 3 or more bedroom units, more about monitoring and evaluation, the standards that a developer must meet for those affordable units, as mentioned, in terms of the term and how long it has to be affordable. Incentives for exceeding the minimum amount of affordable units included in a project, the payment in lieu options, and and application requirements. So that's just the broad strokes of it. Turn it over to you.
I will open the public hearing, and so if folks have comments or questions, if they want more detail, absolutely can ask those. I would invite, if you're in the room, you can come up to the microphone to speak. If you are on Zoom, the chat or raise hand feature to let us know.
No comments in the room.
Okay. Well, seeing no public comment, I will close the public hearing and we can move on to item B, which is on for discussion or approval. This is a chance for council to then dig in on any additional questions. We had our deeper introduction at our previous meeting. Thomas, I will look to you to facilitate with the rest of council.
Thank you. I just want to share that I've spoken with some residents about this, both of the commissions that I was on over August and some other folks, and overall people seem to really enjoy all the work that you did. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, no questions from me, but I think Councilor Oakley has some questions.
You are Shirley? Do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
You might cover some.
Okay.
I didn't know that I learned
Okay.
about. So.
I did give this a fresh look, and a couple of things came to mind that may or may not be worth adding. For section 516 C1 and C2, I was curious if there may be value to add the word licensed before educational institution or before senior or age restricted housing, so that it's clear that it needs to have some substance in correlation with a state authorized entity.
Sure. So on that, looking at it on C1, we could definitely add licensed or accredited educational institution. But kind of doing a deeper dive into it, I don't think Spinner Place is actually associated with an educational institution, even though they offer student housing exclusively. So that's something to consider as well with that fix. For C2, we could include licensed, but senior housing doesn't necessarily need to offer services for care. It could just be age-restricted housing. And the city and the county as a whole deeply needs senior housing. There is a lack of senior housing in the area. So by adding that caveat, that requirement in there, that could take away from providing a need to the community.
Thanks for the perspective. I was thinking about it in the sense of mitigating a loophole and whether or not that would pose some risk to the city.
Yeah, on the educational institution aspect, I didn't see any loopholes in there. The language in that is pretty common. I mean, I've seen it in Burlington's regulations along with South Burlington's regulations, written as such without any statement that says that it has to be licensed or accredited. But again, we can attach it to reinforce it, but I didn't see any risk of a loophole on C1. With C2, I do see a risk by including any sort of licensure, just because there is that need for senior housing, and by further requiring that it's only for service provided type of facilities, that we wouldn't allow for any type of senior housing to be created that is needed in the community.
Okay. For E3C, I would, in my opinion, I think there would be benefit to adding appliances to the list of other items that are more structurally related. The reason being is that there are a wide range of appliances with efficiency standards, not just most efficient, and appliances can also have a pretty adverse impact on annual budgets if they are not even Energy Star listed. So I think there's there's gradations of what would be an efficient appliance. So, trying to think through the thought process of wanting to ensure that all income levels are able to have access to efficient equipment, and that there are ranges within that most efficient that may be more outside of the expense range for the developer or landlord for all units. But Energy Star appliances would still be feasible to outfit for each unit.
Yeah, so we could add appliances. Appliances like personal property type of things are outside of my purview in terms of regulations. So it's a bit odd for me to include it into zoning, but
I guess I'm thinking not small appliances. I'm thinking like refrigerators, ovens,
right.
washer dryers, that type
Yeah,
of thing.
I mean, even so, it's still more so personal property type of appliances. So it's a bit odd, but it could be added.
Fred, were you referring to, did you say E3C or E3B?
Let me go back to E. It was a little late when I was typing, so. B, yes.
Okay, in B. Revi, would it make sense, like if the developer is providing appliances, like is there a differentiation for you? Because like I agree, we're not trying to regulate people's personal property within the units. I don't know, are there other similar examples where you've seen that?
I haven't. And so that's why it's still kind of odd to me. But like I say, it could definitely be added, and it could be part of during certificates of occupancy inspections to be reviewed and checked off, just like all the other aspects under the inclusionary housing standards. It could be looked over.
It could also be phrased so that in instances where appliances are provided, if that caveat makes a difference.
Is it common for a new appliance to be not Energy Star?
There's still, it's not,
Depending on who's building.
None
Yes.
of my appliances
It's not-
are less than 5 years old, and none of them are Energy Star except for the washer dryer.
Yeah.
And they were provided by my landlord, well, the person that outfitted the apartment before selling the building to my landlord.
it's not like light bulbs. It's not the market
Right.
standard.
But I think limiting it to like refrigerator, oven,
Yeah.
dishwasher,
Yeah, I'm
washer,
thinking
dryer,
large
like the big
appliances.
appliances that are, and specifying that it's the ones that are provided by the landlord, like somebody moves in and buys their own washer and dryer, I don't
Yeah.
think that's got anything to do
Yeah,
with.
that's along the lines of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I do see the rub though, Rubby, if historically and logically code is limited to like permanent structure, like windows, doors, HVAC, I see that in here. But I do also, as someone with lived experience as a renter, see the value in being provided like the not landlord special version of the stove, etc.
Yeah. Actually, this taps into an equity issue I was concerned about, I think, actually more with B and C last time. So I wouldn't be opposed to, with the correct wording, putting that in there, because I do worry about the equity of folks who are in the lower income housing have the
Yeah.
bad.
And I don't think anybody who's building a new building that is going to be of this size isn't going to be providing those like 5 major appliances.
I would be surprised. Again, if it's the units that are fit up, I think there's lots of new development happening. There's lots of that new development is not for purchase by new homeowners. So presumably a lot of those units would be fit up with large appliances as well, and not expected to be provided by the folks moving in. So and for clarity, yes, I have the efficiency at the heart, but the driver for this, for me, is the equity component.
They play right into each other. Who enforces this? If like, and what is to stop developers from just like, unfortunately, just like putting an Energy Star sticker when someone does the walkthrough. I agree that addressing this is important, and also I don't know that this is where we do it or that this has the reach to do that. And again, who enforces that element of this code when the time comes? That's just for my own education.
Now, Chief?
Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. I was going to speak to just that, the enforcement part of this. I don't, it's the first I've heard of this, following it, and just, I don't know how that fits into your current community risk reduction efforts. The expertise that we would need on staff to be checking these. I see a scenario when we're trying to enforce it that the landlord just pulls those appliances out, and in some instances leaves people without appliances. So again, I without, that's just kind of from the cuff, if you will. My initial is, I don't know how this fits into our current inspection program.
Well, I said my piece on that. We do have a question in the back. Okay.
Sure.
I
think Elaine was about to say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd be concerned that there are no such regulations that Revi's seen elsewhere. And I'd want to check on unintended consequences or legality to have it in zoning regulations if council wanted to pursue that.
So I know that South Burlington, and I don't know the specifics, South Burlington has got, or is pushing towards doing some Energy Star, like basic requirements in all of their construction, as well as trying to make things net zero. So again, this is just from a conversation with the South Burlington councilor, so I'm not sure where they are in the process. I do know that people are looking into this type of situation that you raised. I think South Burlington is actually trying to go further. Like I said, I think they're trying to do net zero.
They've adopted a stretch code for that.
So I feel like, and kind of to answer your question, like these types of documents, I think, are where we create something like that. It is where we would lay it out. Now, whether it can be enforced through code, I mean, that's a much bigger conversation.
I think one of the things that I think that's really interesting, and one of the things that's coming up for me now is if South Burlington is working on this, I don't want, well, there's the equity piece and the green piece are very key. I don't want that to hold up getting this through, but I would be in favor of maybe asking either the Housing Commission or the Planning Commission to like look into what South Burlington is doing, because I doubt that it's part of this particular.
They adopted a stretch energy code,
So it's different.
it's different.
Right.
I'm aware that South Burlington adopted a stretch code, and then they also they're working on some like grant programs for like mini splits and doing a lot of advocacy work with that, with their climate action plan. With stretch code, it would have to be a broader operational conversation with the fire department, just because it's included in zoning, and by statute it can be included in zoning, but it's still way out of my purview and way out of my breadth. And that's something that the fire inspectors are much more capable of looking into, and it just really depends on what our staff can do.
Stretch code also is looking more structural than necessarily at the appliance level. Again, just kind of thinking of the equity components of where we can have influence over day-to-day life and day-to-day finances. That's why I raised the recommendation.
Yeah.
Moving on. For K, I was curious if you are intending to develop a separate guidance or procedural document to indicate what reporting, when the reporting's due, a template for minimum content of the report, how that'll be tracked over time. And with context, I'm thinking about into the future. So you're holding the role now, but you may not always be holding that role. So who else, for continuity, who else, how can we set up the city for success and those that need to be adhering and complying to set them up with success as well.
So we've worked on a markup based on that question for K. So it now says the owner of a property that includes affordable dwelling units shall prepare and submit an inclusionary zoning reporting form every year on December 31st to the city's housing initiative director that lists the gross rents charged for affordable dwelling units. If an inclusionary zoning reporting form is not submitted, incomplete, and or found to be inaccurate, the owner of the property may be found in violation of this section of the regulations. This text models the TDM section in terms of reporting and its requirements and what the ramifications are for not providing that form.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and in terms of template, I have created a draft one and a draft policy procedure that will obviously need to be fleshed out if this passes. The template's based off of Burlington's that they recently developed that they send out annually as well. So that'll be calendar year. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That's all I have on this.
Also, if you wouldn't, but if you saw Jasmine's short-term rental procedure that she developed with across the team, I don't think you'd be concerned about documentation being lost.
I have faith that the team is thorough, but in absence of me being able to see it, sorry for the additional questions.
Any other questions from councilors?
Okay, but there was a public comment. If you just want to come up to the table.
Hi, my name's Eli Ogilvy. My quick comment and / question would be, I do think it's a really good idea to have some kind of system that allows for tenants to know the efficiency of their appliances. I think in that case, maybe enforcement is kind of the hard thing to do, but maybe knowledge is more beneficial. I don't know if there's any system that could be set up that way where people could learn about their appliances and the city could help in that aspect. But it's always easier to start with knowledge than doing enforcement first to see how it goes. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you touch on a good point. Like when you go and you buy your own washing machine, right? You see all the different energy star ratings and understand how much it's going to cost every year. If your appliance is just there, you have no idea. So you can't alter use or change how you use it or anything like that. I don't want to answer for city staff, but I know assume that would be difficult for people to figure that out, but don't know if it's maybe like the developer leaves the paperwork behind so people can understand what they're working with. That would probably be less of, I'm going to guess, like an ordinance, but maybe an ask that we could throw in when folks are building a building. But it's completely true. You can, if you don't know what you're working with, you have no idea what your bill is going to look like, and that can be very difficult for a lot of families.
I can say that Champlain Housing Trust left us with a binder of all the information from split units to the fridge and everything.
That's really good.
Might be different because shared
It's
equity,
Champlain.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other public comments?
None in the room.
Well, it sounds like there is council interest in this energy efficiency appliances topic, but more discussion is needed on the staff side. So maybe that is something that we bring back or circle back to in a future discussion if we want to move these forward this evening as presented.
Yeah, I think we gotta leave it at that. I'm not happy about it.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the amendments to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations
So
for inclusionary housing as presented?
Second.
Was that a Thomas first
It
and an
was.
Aurora second?
Yep.
You were still talking though.
That's okay. Yeah, so motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. That is a big. it's a big step forward for Winooski to have this protection, so
Yeah.
appreciate council's work and of course staff and commissions.
I was just trying to recall how many months this has been. I think since like, it's been a lot of months.
2
Jasmine
years.
said since I started.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast.
All right. Moving on to item D, a public hearing has also been warned to consider an update to our Chapter 28 fees. I will let Angela give a brief overview and then open the public hearing for comments, and then council can take action in the next item.
No major changes since the last time this was brought to council. The items that are being considered for change include an increase of the fee for non-resident library cards from $10 to $35. Inclusion of some language that will allow summer programming to have pricing consistency within the same season, even though it crosses fiscal years. Updating the water and wastewater allocation rates to match what they are currently, inclusion of the new payment in lieu of affordable housing units as outlined in the previously adopted items, and then some language that we have added at the recommendation of our attorney for fee waivers for the scholarship policy that council has approved for us.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any questions, comments from members of the public?
No, not in the room.
And on Zoom again, raise hand, chat features if you wish to speak. Seeing no public comments, I will close the public hearing and we'll move on to item D. Any questions or comments from council on this item?
I don't see any question.
Okay.
I
Hearing no concerns.
am just going to share my feelings about the increase in the library fee. It feels, some additional information on the reasoning was provided as a follow-up question that I had. It does feel incongruous with ensuring access to the public library. I know it's for non-residents, but it feels like quite a significant jump rather than an incremental increase. And just thinking about other fees that we've discussed in the recent past and amount setting, this does, I have a hard time squaring that circle, I guess, as the saying goes. Just my feelings about it.
Thank you for sharing.
Normally, I am very anti-library card fees, but I will say in this case, actually Fletcher Free no longer offers Hoopla, which is the extremely expensive service. So I can see folks being more interested in getting a Winooski library card to access that service, which will, I think, with some additional info, overall, that will be expensive because we pay per use. And like the mixed blessing of like digital media does make things more accessible, but it is due to copyright laws, extraordinarily expensive. And I think there are some concerns about funding in the Green Mountain Library Consortium, which is how we get our overdrive access to ebooks and audiobooks. So I guess in the long run, because this is specifically for folks who don't have any ties to Winooski, and I do know there's a temporary card for folks who might not have a permanent address in Winooski but are currently residing here, as well as the fact that other folks who are going to school here, work here, can access it for free. I am actually comfortable with this. I do get a little bit of like, maybe we could do a slightly smaller increase. But But again, if this is in alignment with some of the other local, we've had it at an extremely low rate. And if that's kind of almost kind of like with some of the pool stuff, if that's like folks who are non-Winooski residents and taxpayers are getting access to it over, I feel a little bit with that. But that's kind of, again, like this was my talking through too, of like, that's what I feel with this one. And I think this comes as a suggestion from the library committee. Ray is nodding. Okay.
Yeah. That's helpful context, Aurora. More detail than I was aware of.
Yeah.
Any other concerns or comments from counselors?
No.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve adoption of these updates to Chapter 28 fees?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, it was all. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to item E, introducing amendments to Winooski Code Chapter 15 parking for fines and setting a public hearing date. Elaine, you'll kick us off here?
Yes, and I am mostly reading from the cover sheet, so feel free to doze off, council, if you've already read this. Staff recommend 2 changes to the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15 on parking, which is to reduce the unpaid meter fine from $30 to $25. Apologies to anyone who looked at the proposed change online before today, because I had the wrong amount in there. Increase the overtime fine for 15-minute spots to match the unpaid meter fine amount of $25. Assuming that gets adopted today. So the unpaid meter fine, the background is that we did adopt changes to Chapter 15 last year. Among these were increasing the fine for an unpaid meter to be higher than 12 hours of hourly parking, as the mayor alluded to earlier during public comment. That went from $12 to $30. The purpose of that change was to incentivize people to pay their meter or move their vehicle. Code enforcement regularly noted people before then parking for many hours without paying, preferring to risk paying the low fine rather than the meter. Whereas the point of paid parking is to incentivize turnover of parking spots and therefore patron access to parking. A lot of feedback from downtown businesses and the city clerk's office about complaints about that $30 amount. We just had a resident actually come in about that just before this. A common statement is that people say they will not come back to Winooski because of the amount of the fine. So we did look at the data. Angela looked at the data, and we determined that the increase is meeting its objective. There's a decrease in the number of unpaid meter tickets per enforced hour. And the data also shows that paid meter revenue has increased lately, which is inconsistent with the perception that people are boycotting Winooski, so to speak, over the parking fine. However, there is a lot of tension felt by downtown businesses. Their staff are often berated by customers, unfortunately, not to mention the clerk's office, although that's our job. So I'm not saying that should be a reason, but certainly downtown businesses are suffering from complaints from customers. So we are recommending that we change the amount of the fine down a bit to $25. That amount was actually suggested by a business owner. I won't say who because they probably won't like that. But there was an actual business who volunteered that amount. For the second part, the overtime and 15-minute spots, in proposing last year's update, we overlooked that the overtime fine for 15-minute spots, which was that has been changed to $20, would then be less than the fine for an unpaid meter. And this creates an unintended incentive for people to risk an overtime ticket for a 15-minute spot rather than an unpaid metered spot. And we actually have observed that happening. So therefore, we are recommending that the amount of this fine match that of the unpaid meter. So in this case, increasing from $20 to $25.
Thank you, Elaine. Questions from council first.
I have a comment about the overtime 15-minute parking spot, from the last downtown Winooski meeting, they brought up a couple of times when some of their vendors have been parked in the 15-minute spot, unloading goods for the business to use. And in couple occasions, it seems they had been under 50 minutes and got the ticket. I think they talked to the clerk's office. But I would be interested in allowing for more of a buffer for vendors who are providing goods to downtown Winooski. They're bringing in, you know, a box of whatever it may be, and the clerk is with a customer, they're not able to get to them in time. They might end up being there for, you know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But I don't think that it would be appropriate to be asking for the vendors to be paying for a parking spot when they're really helping our businesses, and we want to make sure that our businesses continue to not have any more imposed issues than they're already facing with Main Street and soon will be with the bridge. So I do agree that, you know, folks are definitely using 50-minute parking spots for their, you know, entire lunch or dinner. So we should be monitoring it, and I agree with the $25 fine. I do just want to make sure that we're not hurting those folks who are trying to help the businesses. We don't have, I think we have one loading area in the downtown for folks to access.
I think there's more than one, but I'd have to check.
No, I at least know of one.
Your point would be valid anyway.
Yeah,
so.
maybe one or two.
Yeah.
Not a ton either way, not enough for every
Right,
single
yeah.
business that we have. So I think they've been using those 15-minute spots to try to run things in and out. So I wonder what my fellow councilors would feel about giving vendors a little more of a leeway on that 15-minute spot.
I'd be comfortable with that as long as that sounds like it would be doable for enforcement.
Right, I'm not actually sure that it is. I'd have to check with the team, but this is just, you know, a suggestion to introduce. So you could delay the introduction until I find out more, or you could introduce and then have it tackled in the interim.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do agree it's probably difficult. Not every single vendor has a marked car. I think if there's a marked car, let's use Misery Loves Company, for example. Somebody's parked outside the USPS building, that 15-minute spot. They're loading something in. It says that they're, you know, Happy Farms Maple, or whatever it may be. The parking attendant is likely going to walk by Misery Loves Company and may see that there's somebody loading stuff in and out. That to me would be like, you know, you could use, the parking attendant could use their judgment that that's somebody who's doing a delivery. If not, and they give the ticket, they've been there for 20 minutes. City clerk's office, look to you, Jenny, on this. If the person says they were doing a delivery, the business confirms that they were doing a delivery, would just waive the ticket. So they'd still get the ticket. It would be unfortunate, but we would waive it for them.
Well, part of what I want to find out is, again, specific examples are helpful, because my understanding is that they are generally more, don't know what word to use, generous when it's a marked vehicle.
Yeah.
So I want to see what's actually happening, and if people are experiencing it, again, getting the feedback right away is helpful.
No, certainly. I know that they have to speak about it. I think some downtown Winooski folks are on right now. I used a fictional maple company because that was the example of a couple of weeks ago. Somebody was there for under 15 minutes, got the ticket. The business owner identified that, and I believe worked with the clerk's office, and I think everything ended up panning out. But there was a recent example of that, and I think there have been others. So happy to delay it, but if council's in agreement, I would like to put it in the document and then see if we can work on it and how we would figure that out. But I do just think the businesses
I would ask
already,
staff,
yeah.
to me, this feels more nuanced, like how it's like how the policy is operationally implemented in a level of detail that may not belong in this policy document.
I would agree with that unless council wants to change oh, I don't even want to say it out loud. You'd have to change all the signs, which I don't want to do, so.
Yeah, I definitely think it's nuanced, and I think but you know, I think ultimately why I look to the document is because the nuance comes from from having that customer service training that a lot of folks are questionable about in our parking enforcement department. So I'd like it to be laid out somewhere so that parking staff understands that there is that nuance for this particular type of situation.
But how to operationalize it?
Where,
Go ahead, Christine.
I think there's a flip side risk to this. Like, the other day I sold some used video game stuff at the video game store. If I was getting a ticket in the 15-minute spot, I could have said, hey, I'm delivering these products to this store. I should be able to use this space. Like, I think we're opening, I think this is not policy level. This feels like something very hard to detail in a policy document every example of how this would be handled by our code enforcement staff.
I'm inclined to agree with Christine and Elaine. This sounds like a, hey, heads up, guys, take it easy on the delivery drivers in an internal email, not like a policy change. But go ahead, Jenny.
I just wanted to comment. We work with code enforcement, the parking team, a lot during the course of the day. And I know our team does try to allow a few extra minutes. So that car is marked at the initial 15 minutes. So they know what time that it was. And then when they go to revisit, they are allowing, another 5 to 10 minutes. There's not anything set in stone, but I know in the past that's what we're doing.
Yeah, for full disclosure, I'm just speaking about my previous days in parking. This is very nuanced, and it actually makes it extremely difficult for staff and the customers when it's this nuanced, because the description or understanding of delivery, if a contractor's there delivering tools, if they're delivering materials, if they're delivering appliances at Spinner, there's so many pieces to this. It makes it extremely difficult for there to be a clear understanding of that nuance.
Thanks, Chief.
I offered some of my own thoughts ahead of the meeting. I don't know if that was actually shared or not, so I'll just reiterate things. I'm not a fan of having the same fine, the same monetary offense for anyone that did not pay at all. I think a lower offense is something that I would be favorable of, but I don't think to me, it doesn't make sense to find somebody who put the effort in to do the meter initially to have the same exact offense as somebody that didn't even attempt to do the metering. So that may challenge operational efficiencies, but that's it doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense to me to have it the same exact penalty.
There are no meters in the 15-minute spots.
I'm talking about the beyond 15-minute parking.
So you're talking if like
So
somebody
somebody
paid versus they didn't pay enough.
In 15-minute spots.
In excessive. So say they pay for the meter for an hour and they exceed it by, the meter, the hour ends and they haven't re-upped. It's like the
Versus no payment at all.
Different.
Yeah, I just think that are we moving on to that? Because that doesn't have anything to do with delivery drivers parking in 15-minute spots for more than 15 minutes.
I was proposing a different topic. Yeah, I guess.
Okay, cool. Let's go. Guys.
I wasn't sure if we were having any.
I was just confused.
Yeah, I didn't thread the needle on that. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Once a vehicle's meter has expired, we can no longer tell the difference between somebody who never paid and somebody who paid and had it expire. There's not a way for our team to be able to differentiate between those.
So and it might just be a different way we access the software.
It's the field reader does not have it. There's no option to look at.
There's no way to tell
who's paid and is expired.
Okay, so,
It just shows you current active sessions.
right, so I just want to so, as somebody who's had a few parking tickets, in the situation that you're discussing,
Yep.
I've done that a couple times in Burlington, and their process is you email their city attorney, and their city attorney looks over what it is. And every time I've done that, they've seen, and I don't know how, because I don't know the back end, but they said, I saw that you paid until this time. We're not going to give you a full ticket because you did pay your first hour when you picked it up.
Right, so you can do that here too. We
Okay, I
have,
think that's
yeah.
part of what. Okay.
You can dispute it after and it goes to our grand juror who can then look it up. It's the field readers that doesn't allow that in the field. But yes, once we're back in the office, we can look it up.
Okay.
Feels inefficient.
We'd have to change out the field readers, which is an expense that we haven't budgeted for.
But I think that would help with your saying.
I will just say as an individual, I expect the same fine. If I screw up my parking, whether I chose not to pay or I didn't pay enough and I didn't re-up through the app or my meter, I expect the same fine no matter what for violating the parking.
This just happened to me in Burlington. I watched the guy put it under my windshield, and he was like, "I guess I just missed you." And I said, "No, you just got me." But I had paid the meter, and I was getting a haircut, and it went a little long. And I paid $30 for my ticket that he essentially put it in my hand. So it is too in the weeds to make it stuff like this is just very clear. Like we put it on technology to do this. We don't have like people walking around with notepads and paint sticks anymore. It's very black and white to me. I think it should be the same fee whether you paid it or not, because there's no way to tell. And it would be weird for me. I don't want people to know how to track my license plate on Park Mobile everywhere I parked. I want random Jake that works at City of Burlington Parking Enforcement to know everywhere that I've parked in the last however long. Like, I don't want them to have access to that data on hand anyway. So I think it's great that the readers don't have that kind of record or recording skills, because that is weird and feels like poor security. But I think it should be $25 either way, especially if the people on site can't tell. Like, we're wasting labor, we're wasting time, we're making people's jobs harder.
I have unrelated thoughts, if we want to move on from that.
Aurora, I
I
feel
did
like I saw
wanna
you
just
talking
say-
a little bit, and then
I want to do
I want to just check in on public comment, but I don't know if we're ready.
That's what I was gonna do.
Okay, perfect, because I think, yeah.
Hi, it's Eli again from earlier. Parking's always fun to talk about, so I'll throw in my 2 cents. Regarding the 15-minute courtesy spots, could you also just not make those loading zones? Have a sign that says also loading zones. You don't have this contentious issue of the two of them. And the second one I don't remember right now, but maybe it'll come back to me in a minute. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I remember it. Sorry. I was looking for data-wise. How often do people contest their ticket in Winooski? And does it happen often? And is there an easy way of doing it? And is there forgiveness?
Yes, I don't know I'd have to look up the percentage that are waived. And I don't know what the ratios of complaints to issued offhand.
Do you have like a ballpark timeline of how long it takes for a contested ticket to get ruled on?
I don't think it takes that long. Angela, do you have any sense?
He does them a minimum of once a week, but he's usually pretty on top of it and usually replies within 2 to 3 days.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? If you're on Zoom, chat, raise your hand. Okay, back to council.
so Eli once again bring up a good point. So we currently have the loading zones. that exists. How does staff police a vehicle in that loading zone to assume if it's loading, if it's something that is doing loading and something that's not doing loading?
They're usually looking for a mark. So for example, we had a business who was loading, but they had nothing to indicate that it was a company car.
Yeah.
And they got ticketed, and then we just shared that with them, and we said, you could even, I think we said like a magnet sign on the side, and he said, oh, actually, I'm working on a permanent thing for my vehicle.
So if we're already doing that in some way, can we also do that for the 15-minute parking spots?
That's not the point of the 15-minute spots. These are in front of high turnover businesses. So the point is to turn it over. If someone's delivering an appliance, like how do we, it gets to the operational weeds that John was talking about more than the logistics of recognizing when it's a delivery vehicle.
Well, then could we possibly identify some more spots that can become loading zones?
The parking in the downtown is in short supply, so to speak. People always want more parking. So if we took ones away for loading, I don't know that would work out. We can certainly look at it with the parking team. If anyone would know, that it would be that group that could identify possibilities. But that's my answer in this moment.
I see we have a comment, Laura Wade.
Sorry, what did you say, Christine?
Laura Wade has her hand raised.
Oh, okay.
Hi there. Yeah, so I'm a business owner in the Rotary there, Onion City Chicken and Oyster and Mystery Loves Company. And there are a couple things that I'd love to comment on. So oftentimes parking enforcement is parked in the 15-minute spots, which I find to be a little bit stressful, I think, for us, because there's just so few of them, so it minimizes the spots. And then I think in general, like, for the most part, yeah, $30 has been kind of a shocker for a lot of folks. I think people do expect to pay. They expect to be fined when they don't pay. I think what our guests are telling us is that it is mostly around the customer service, and that they're most often at the kiosk when sometimes they're getting ticketed. And so it's just a matter of parking enforcement kind of reading the situation. And you're right, it is a very nuanced position. But I think that's part of it, is to kind of look around and see, is that person in the vicinity? Are they on their way to the kiosk? Are they having trouble with the kiosk? And available to maybe offer assistance or whatever it needs to happen. So as far as delivery, yeah, we did actually have someone who got ticketed at the delivery in the 15-minute spot. Who maybe they were there for less than 15 minutes, but maybe not. And yeah, that's very difficult to ascertain if they're a delivery driver or not with an unmarked car. But I think it's really about sort of that quick response that our enforcement has. And that's really it.
Thanks, Laura. So to come back to the meat of what is being proposed tonight, to decrease the unpaid meter fine from 30 to 25 and increase the 15-minute overtime from 20 to 25 so they match. Is council generally on board with that?
I
am.
Yes.
No. I also have additional comments.
Well, before those, there's this idea of loading zones. I don't know if that is something that a majority of council want to continue to pursue, or if that's something we should table for the future.
I'm happy with it being discussed by the parking team. You know, I really do think, you know, like I understand, I guess there's, you know, there's nuance who's doing deliveries. We do have loading zones, so I think we should really look into that nuance that we're already managing. But you know, a lot of, you know, a good example of, you know, the difficulty of parking in Winooski, which we all know about, but commodities, we weren't able, there was a lot of outreach that was done by Melissa to try to get another grocery store in there. Big problem about not, from some folks that she approached, about not moving in there is because there's no place to unload and to load. So we know that it's an issue. We've seen it happen. So I would like there to be a discussion at some level of how to at least make it possible for folks serving the businesses to be able to do that job, given that we don't have loading docks or loading bays anywhere in the city except for the postal service, I'm pretty sure. You know, anytime a vendor gets charged, you know, or gets $30 fine, you know, that's one, you know, they're not feeling great about it, not feeling great about doing business in Winooski, but I'd only imagine that eventually they're going to have conversations with our businesses about how they can move forward with continuing to make deliveries happen easily. So if we could just get ahead of that, you know, we're in this document, maybe it doesn't have to live on this document, but that's what policy documents exist for us to identify an issue and try to fix it.
So we will move that from tonight's discussion to the parking team. We'll come back to the actual proposed amendment. Bryn, you had some additional comments.
Yeah, so we talk often about how other municipalities are setting their fines and fees. For example, we just increased our library fee from $10 to $35 to be more in line with our neighboring communities. So I looked up the fine ordinance, the fee ordinance for parking metered and unmetered spaces for Burlington. It was actually really hard to find, to be honest. It's 20-66. They call it charges, which is also part of the reason why I had a hard time finding it. Their metered parking offenses are $20, which I believe Elaine noted in the memo, maybe, or a previous memo. Non-metered parking offenses are not quite the same all across the board, but for the most part are $75, which, as we look at the remainder of our non-metered parking fines, are all drastically below that. So I just want to call that out in terms of opportunities to increase and adjust fees that are more in line with our neighbors to discourage unwanted parking, such as on sidewalks, which I took a photo of and sent to Elaine on my street at one point in the past few weeks. So just thinking about other deterrents that can discourage from unwanted parking, not just in the metered spaces, but outside of the metered spaces that look ripe for some adjustments based off of what else is on this list for tonight. So I just, like I said, wanted to call it some thoughts that were related to parking fines, but unrelated to the metered spaces specifically.
Yeah, fire hydrant seems pretty low.
It's strange that they're almost all lower than just not paying a meter since we're talking about it, like blocking a crosswalk, blocking a sidewalk. Those feel like safety problems and not just like, oh, you're getting around a payment system problem. You bring up a really good point, right, about those needed, like deterring through fines.
So generally we don't touch the fines unless we're starting to see a pattern.
Okay.
That's why we
keep taking pictures, friend.
I'm curious about that. So you point that out, but I don't feel like there was much more than anecdotal information provided for tonight's agenda item.
It was a lot of anecdotal information. that's how
I
it
think there
became
have
a
been many
problem.
complaints from downtown and to within the clerk's office since we changed the fees, this fee.
Has Melissa also been hearing about this on through Downtown Winooski?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good, cool.
Laura and Melissa are both
Trust me
on
there.
if you want to ask them.
So again, pointing out that as we look at fees and how we want to align ourselves with our neighboring municipalities, non-meter spaces in other municipalities are $75, just for a point of consideration.
Well, I do want to say, like, the purpose of tonight's proposal is not to be aligned with our neighbors. It's to address the ire that we are receiving, that our business community is receiving, while still having fines that encourage turnover of the spaces as intended.
And I hear that. I think folks are more motivated downtown than folks that may not know how to provide complaints that are walking to and from school. And may not have the resources or the ability to make those complaints or know how to do it effectively. So yes, while we are talking about the meter spaces, I would argue that it's an opportunity to make some additional updates that align with desired safety protocols.
So when I say that when we see a trend, it's usually code enforcement that's bringing it up. They'll see a pattern, they'll bring it up to parking team, and then we discuss whether it's enough for us to do something about, and if it has to go to council. So I'm happy to ask them if there's other, we did look at the other fines and when we were going to open this one back up, and they said everything else seemed fine, which to me is an indicator that the data they have from observing every day is that the other ones aren't so much an issue.
Oh, we've got public comment. If councilors are good, ready for that? Yeah, come on.
So we can ask parking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, just a quick thing. Yeah, I would love to see data for how often people go over their time for parking as well. I feel like with every change, initially there's a huge uproar against it because it is a change. And these fines have only been in place for a few months. So it's gonna be a lot of
Almost a
change.
year.
Okay, so a year. And that could be a great idea to lower it, but at least from a public standpoint, I have no data to say this is a good idea or not, other than it's people are complaining, which would make sense because now they're paying more than they used to. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we can also ask, we can ask staff to have the parking team discuss the other fines.
I think I would like to see some additional data. I think that is just an element that to me feels missing. Yes, there's anecdotal data. Yes, I hear that there's been a lot of complaints, but I feel like we're not able to have a sense for what that means in relationship to whether or not violations is there actually an increase in violations, or is there just more upset people about the same number of violations?
There's actually fewer violations.
These angrier people.
Yes, that's real. They're much angrier
We are
when they
talking
get
about
fined.
We're talking about a demographic of people that is upset about their job parking and are taking it out on cashiers and baristas, right? Like, we are trying to cater to the irrational at this point. So this is for discussion or approval tonight?
Oh, sorry. This is to introduce and set a public hearing date. So we have an opportunity to come back and if there is data we want to see. But I think to Elaine's point, the reason for this proposal is to reduce, it's like goodwill, and to reduce bad behavior essentially. I also think that it makes sense to align the unpaid meter and staying over in a 15-minute space. And if we are reducing unpaid meter from 30 to 25, that makes the increase on the 15-minute space smaller, to 25 rather than 30, right? So that's another way that I would be looking at this.
I'm cool with that.
So I'd be seeking a motion to introduce the amendments as presented and set a public hearing date for September 15th. It sounds like also council is interested in seeing parking data from staff and hearing from the parking team on other fines and loading zones, or a grace period on the 15-minute spaces for loading.
Yes, I agree.
Will the parking team have met before before the public hearing?
That's right, we're meeting next Tuesday.
And I forget, was Melissa invited to join the parking team?
No.
Okay.
I update her on the agenda and then she comes if it's relevant.
Okay, but she is able to attend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Christine, I think we're on board with your summary.
So moved. Yeah, I think
What
you asked
data
for a motion.
exactly? What data exactly?
What data are we looking for?
Yes.
It sounds like
Violation data is what I heard.
there was an ask for data on how on parking tickets that are given on exceeded time.
I don't have a way to get that data. I
Is
can
there-
do on the meter violations, I can get
Yeah.
you that information, but short of checking every single parking ticket to see if somebody paid, I would have no idea if they just overstayed or not.
In our system, when somebody contests the ticket, do we give it like a code or something as to why they contested the ticket that would be searchable in like an Excel or something?
Not to that level of detail.
All right, I guess
Do we have data
that was
on
the data point you
the
asked.
number of
I don't
tickets
think that's
contested?
possible.
I can probably get number of tickets contested. I can get appeal data.
I think appeal data would be helpful.
As in the type of offenses?
Well, I think before and after, so. before and after the
sorry,
fee
sorry.
increase.
Angela, how much
Point
effort
one.
is that? I know you're down a person and you have audit coming.
Non-metered violations.
For just the appeal data, I think it's gonna be relatively quick, less than an hour, depending on what other type of details. I don't know what the system report will generate, if I can get it down to the type of violation that was appealed or not. But I might be able to see if Chris in the code enforcement team is able to assist, because she is an administrator in that system as well.
Angela, is it feasible to get violation data for non-metered offenses?
I can get all violation data, absolutely. We can tell you every single parking ticket type that has been issued, how many, with the frequencies. That's not a problem. I just can't differentiate because we eliminated, the over limit fee. We just have meters unpaid. Now I can't differentiate that. They were never issuing the over limit fee because they couldn't tell.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion from Charlie to set this public hearing date for September 15th. Do I have a second?
Almost.
Motion from Charlie, second from Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we will revisit this at the next meeting along with violation data and appeal data.
All right, thanks.
All right. Moving on to item F. A public hearing has been warned for the naming of a private street. Revi, would you like to quickly just state the purpose of this before I open the public hearing?
Sure. So, there is a proposed development that permits have been issued for at 8X Franklin Street. For this development, a new address has to be issued. We reviewed a couple options for addressing and concluded that the least disruptive option would be to identify the driveway as a private roadway for E911 standards and for E911 purposes, and then address the townhouses according to that new private driveway. Since it's a private driveway, I reached out to the applicant and asked them what names they would like to have for their driveway. And then had it reviewed by the state E911 coordinator and by us internally to check if there were any conflicts with that name and any operational issues with having that name in that location. And everyone concluded that the name would be just fine for that location. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you for any questions.
I will open the public hearing, see if we have any public comment questions.
None in the room.
Okay, seeing no comment, I will close the public hearing and we'll move to item G for council questions and comments.
I'm gonna dive in, sorry. Anybody else want to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. Revi, do you have the ability to summarize what E911 reviews?
So E911 has their own standards and practices for addressing. And addressing is, John, Audie, feel free to jump in at any time because this is more in your alley than mine. But from my understanding is that E911 is looking at emergency response operations and also legibility with layman utility. So what they do, how we work pretty much is say I'll get a proposal like this for a new development. I'll turn it over to E911, say, looks like based on addressing standards, there needs to be a new address for this, a new house site for this. Do you have any suggestions for numbers? They come back to me with a recommendation for addressing, and we discuss what would be the best option in this location. The municipality, we have a lot more leeway on whether to follow E911 standards to the T or not, depending on our operations and our needs. So the state provides to us recommendations on addressing. We review it and provide a recommendation or provide finalization of what the address should be. So that's how the process works in a nutshell. It's mainly on from my understanding, on like the fire side, emergency response side.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a little out of my realm of familiarity, what's the difference between, what's the threshold between a driveway and a road?
It's an excellent question. So there are many different definitions of a road. But for E911 standards, any driveway that serves 3 or more house sites has to be defined as a roadway.
Okay.
Even though we might consider it a driveway for public works standards, we might even consider it a private roadway for public works standards. But for E911 addressing, it has to be considered a roadway.
Very helpful. Given the changes with the housing ordinance and legislation, do you anticipate a fairly exponential increase in the number of private roads that are named in the next few years?
I have no idea. So the only reason why I'm bringing this up to you is because E911 actually recommended to us to readdress 4 addresses south of this property in order to address this properly according to their standards. And so I'm trying to circumvent all of that by having this driveway be a roadway. So none of those property owners have to go through readdressing. So it really depends on future developments, whether it aligns with E911 standards and whether we need to do some sort of weird circumvention in order to meet the standards, but also do the least amount of impact to community members while also making sure that it doesn't clash with operations for emergency response.
Very interesting. That was a deep dive.
Yeah.
If I can add, it's resource-based. The addressing system in Winooski is full. Simple terms. So as this new development happens, there isn't, in communities that have been doing E911 planning out, or further along in their planning and experience, there's room for addresses between each house. In Winooski, there's not. So the reality is, as we continue to develop, it will be a big staff lift and a big impact to residents. You will see complete streets readdressed as this continues in the future. How many more, Brent? I have no idea. As far as could happen on any given street. There's a couple streets that are there, if you will. And again, it's been a lack of staff resources to tackle and manage the impacts to the residents, quite frankly.
It's all really intriguing. And can really kind of reshape the history of the city in a way. But thanks for the details. I was really interested in learning a little bit more of the background, the standards, the review, what have you. So, and also in anticipation of quite a bit more development. So thank you for joining me on that tangent.
Any additional questions, comments from council? Any public comment?
No.
Okay. Seeking a motion to approve the name Gabe's Way for the private roadway to be built at 8X Franklin Street.
I moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ruby.
All right. I've got 7:42. I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. We will reconvene at 7:47. It's 7:48. We will reconvene. We are on regular item H for discussion, our goal updates. There's a lot here, a lot that was shared in this round. I would invite staff, if there's anything in particular you want to highlight, feel free, or we can just move into council questions.
Anything you want to highlight? John, is there anything you want to highlight?
No, I'll get here.
Okay, sorry everybody, I do have one. It's for the benefit of the public, because I think council's been kept up to date, so. Regarding the equity director role, council adopted and voters approved the city manager proposal to include in the fiscal year 2026 budget a Winooski contribution of $25,000 to a shared equity policy advisor that would be employed by the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. The position would work with the CCRPC's Equity and Community Engagement Coordinator, since retitled Outreach and Engagement Manager, and specialize in providing support, guidance, and best practices to contributing municipalities. One other municipality, Essex Junction, did also have this contribution adopted by their voters. After some discussion between a few of the managers of the original 6 communities that were interested in the model and the CCRPC, we agreed to scope services that would be delivered by the Outreach and Engagement Manager to Essex Junction and Winooski that would also be of interest to the other 4 communities. The idea would be to help the other 4 communities build a case to include contributions in their fiscal year 2027 budget. Otherwise, nothing would ever line up. In parallel, the Essex Junction City Manager learned of a grant opportunity from the International City and County Managers Association that would pay for 3 years of economic mobility officer salary and implementation funds. The match would be the benefits from the applicants. The economic mobility is an equity issue, and our regions and municipalities don't have staff dedicated to tackling this challenge either. 4 of the communities and CCRPC were interested in this opportunity, and we applied as a consortium. Those were Essex Junction, Shelburne, Winooski, and South Burlington. And we did win that grant, and we're working through a 5-way memorandum of understanding now. Now, this wouldn't replace the equity policy advisor position or role because that was designed to be inward facing. So we're still working with the CCRPC on that with their existing staff. But this would be an outward facing function that we've been lacking, and we're hoping to make some progress on. So I wanted to update the community on some equity efforts that we've been undertaking. And that's all for me, unless there's questions, of course.
It's really good to hear.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah,
All right.
3 years, a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Council, feel free, dive in. If anyone has questions about any of the updates, I think we received every area in this round.
Except for one. Ray went last time.
Just on
Oh,
what you
yes,
just
yes.
mentioned, just on what you just mentioned, Elaine. So it would be shared between the 4 communities. It's an outward-facing position, and you're working on the memorandum. So I'm sure you're all talking about this. But would the time be split evenly between the 4 communities? Would they be trying to do like community-wide events that would span multiple communities at once?
That's a good question. We still have to work through all that. Some of the preliminary, and it really just depends on what they think they can use it for. If we can actually do, kind of region-wide, it's sort of a weird,
Yeah.
picturing geographically how that would
Yeah.
work out. One thought that came to my mind, at least, and again, we still haven't worked it out, is that some of the work that we've been doing because of Main Street and with Ruth Steinmetz's help and the Working Communities Challenge team focused on entrepreneurship, we're maybe a little bit further ahead in terms of our reach into the new American-owned business community. So, and of course, they have communities that don't stop at our borders. So we're thinking that we might be able to use that as a launch point that will, reach more deeply into some of the other communities. But that's just a preliminary thought.
Anyone else have questions, comments?
I asked my questions ahead of time. Thanks.
Any public comment on this item?
No public
We have
comment.
no more Zoom attendees.
Sure.
No public comment in the room, and it looks like council is all set.
Okay. Well, let's move on to item I, on for discussion approval, filling the upcoming vacancy on city council. So with my upcoming resignation after the September 15th meeting and Thomas stepping into the interim mayor role, there's going to be a vacancy on council until town meeting day of 2026, when a new mayor can be elected to finish the term. This scenario occurred before, about 6 years ago, before me. And in that instance, council managed it like any of our other appointments. The city advertised the vacancy to any interested residents. I will note you have to be a registered Winooski voter to serve on council. And then 2 members of council conducted interviews of applicants and brought recommendations to the full council. There was some targeted outreach done to former city councilors, thinking they could more seamlessly step into the short-term role, having familiarity, as well as like commissioners. But it was open to anyone who was interested. That is what has happened in the past. This council needs to decide how do we want to take action and by when. Ideally, we would have the vacancy filled in time for the first meeting in October, because that is the budget goal setting meeting. It'd be good to have the new person engaged in that discussion and on board moving forward in that process. see how folks feel about the process at hand, and then we can go from there, and timing.
Would this be something that we could use the folks working on the Working Communities Challenge grant to share that information more widely? Just thinking about like how we disseminate it, because it does need to be kind of a quick turnaround. And like, do we have, or is that like not appropriate because it's the position that it is?
I mean, the only charter provision is that it's a qualified person, which you could tackle through the interview process. Like, you don't need to filter it up front necessarily. And this council, I mean, Winooski City Council hasn't done that in the last time. So it's, you know, however you want to advertise it, really. You don't have to, but you could.
Okay.
Just how do you get to qualified? That's your main consideration.
Awesome. Which then, actually, that just sprung another question to my mind. Do we have like the previous posting, like description of the position, and previous interview questions?
I think
Paul, do you think you have the previous posting information?
I actually went back and did look for some of that. Unfortunately, a lot of that information was posted on our previous website, which is pretty ancient by now. And the way I had to find that posting was through the Internet Archive.
Yeah.
So pretty ancient. I did find there was one email chain that I have since forwarded to Elaine, outlining some of the draft language for that. So there's a tiny bit of a framework, but that's about it.
Yeah, because kind of what's coming into my mind, and sorry y'all, I both having been on HR and just ending up doing a lot of hiring processes, my brain is clicking in like we would need to like either as a council or as a subcommittee come up with that general kind of quote unquote job description, for lack of a better term, if we're going to post it widely. And we need to come up with questions that are then, you know, tied to what we promote. So then we're asking the specific questions. And one thing that is used now more and more as an inclusive hiring practice is to have the questions prepared to send to the interviewee in advance. So that also kind of can affect the timeline. Just kind of thinking, yeah, those little logistical pieces. And I guess with that, kind of the question is this, like, how involved is staff in this, and how much is this, you know, very much like a council lift?
So historically, this is on council to fill this vacancy.
That's what I
I don't think there is a staff role beyond like helping us facilitate with the advertisement and such.
It would be inappropriate because we could be perceived to be stocking.
That's okay. That's kind of what I assume. So okay, so you all can help like send out things through city channels, but that's kind of where. Okay.
I mean, we can find we could try to see if there's anything done before, but
yeah. But probably.
I will say, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say probably there isn't. From experience in other places, probably we'll be building a little bit from scratch, and that might be good because thinking about updating with hiring best practices and stuff like that.
I mean, this is
I just wanted to recognize, sorry. Go ahead, Thomas. Okay. I wanted to recognize, you know, Aurora, what you're sharing around best practices. And you did acknowledge how that impacts timeline. I think it's a question for council on how much does this process really need to differ from the way we've approached putting our, finding our appointment to the airport commission, for example, or the way we do commission appointments? Because those have not been run as formally as what you are describing.
You know, I think that, you know, this position is obviously unique in that, you know, there isn't a job description, right, when you're running for the role.
Right.
You know, could we put requirements of what we think the perfect counselor would be? Do we all meet those things that we would put on there? You know, I see this as something that would heavily be driven by council, and I think that's, you know, whether that's appropriate, where we would be searching for folks who we think would be interested on top of public postings, because we don't know everybody in Winooski.
Yeah.
But I don't want the process to take too long.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to get somebody onboarded quickly, as we're going to be discussing the budget, and we do a lot of important things, so that's the most important thing that I think we do. So, you know, we have till, should occur by November 14th. I think it would be nice to happen decently before that. And a long, you know, search and interview process obviously delays that.
Yeah.
I do see it very similar to when we appoint somebody to a commission, in the way that we would search for those folks. I think we have the precedents from how it happened 6 years ago, you know, when, you know, on our state legislature, if somebody steps down or they have to leave the legislature for whatever reason that may be, or they leave, you know, a list of names are provided. The governor picks from those list of names. It's not a super extensive search because an election is coming, right?
Yeah.
If we were talking about having this person sit, you know, to fulfill a 2-year term or something like that, then I think it would be really different in terms of how much of a leeway we give before we pick somebody.
So I guess as a council, if we go with the model similar to how we have done commissioners, that means making a subcommittee? And I guess
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I think a subcommittee would make sense given scheduling and this group, any group really, but so yeah, and again, we do a subcommittee essentially for commissions as well.
Yeah, so I was going to share that previously it was in the same fashion, 2 members of council to avoid quorum would be the interviewees of whatever applicants, and then bring a recommendation to council, who would also see all of the applications information.
I guess not to throw a different take, but I believe what the school board has done, because they have also recently gone through this process, is they hold a special meeting. All the potential candidates who are interested come and interview before the entire council, and then a decision is made. I believe probably an executive session. So I guess that, again, I don't know with scheduling what would be the preference, but
I guess that makes it quick.
Yeah, just get it all done.
I think we have 2 models to consider then.
I didn't catch that, Christine.
We have 2 models to consider.
Yes.
2 models to consider, yeah.
Perfect.
I'm curious would there be a template application? Would we just modify what the commissioner application looks like, or is there something that you can uncover from when this was done previously?
We haven't found anything yet. As Paul was saying, I do think I should be able to figure out if Jesse Baker left anything. I just did a search of her files and I didn't see anything obvious. If there was anything, I would assume it would be in her folders. But I didn't see
We
anything.
didn't have those commission applications back then either, so I suspect there may not be one.
And from a technical standpoint, we can, I mean, if you need an online application and a paper application, we can certainly make those and model them off of existing. That's not hard.
Yeah. And I like that application.
Just, you know, if you haven't gathered, I like consistency and transparency. So being able to offer the same opportunity, like, here's the question, here's the, like, you can respond to it however you want, use as much space to respond to it however you'd like, maybe within reason, maybe not a 15-page essay, but I don't know, something that does offer some predictable components that everyone has the chance to respond to, rather than a generic, like, are you interested? Are you registered to vote? And leave it at that. But
Yeah, the commission application has, I think, good questions for this role as well.
Yeah.
Like, why are you interested in this? What's your connection to the community?
Yeah, I think it could use that exactly. Just change council on it from commission.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The full question, the first one that Christine referenced, was includes list experience, history, and qualifications pertinent to the position we're applying for.
I guess a question is, if we do that, are we then selecting folks out of a pool to interview, and then interviewing those folks and then selecting from that?
or does
Or
everyone?
exactly.
Depends how many people.
Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like, if we, during an election, it would be everyone technically
Right.
gets a chance, but if our charter is saying it has to be someone who meets the qualifications, then maybe it does give us a little leeway to have kind of that initial, like, okay, what's your experience? What's your connection? All right, these are in line with what we expect. Come in for an interview.
So what if we had a subcommittee to review the applications and then full council reviews who the subcommittee puts forward?
And reviews as in interviews?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the case that there's 30 applicants, we don't have then 30 people sitting in front of council for 5 hours, 6 hours, as we interview each one of them as a body.
Yeah. And I have very interesting experience. I did apply for, I think, when Alex Yin was hired on, and they had all of us just in the room and asked us down the line. So it wasn't even separate.
Which, you know, like, there's a distinction in being appointed versus running, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
So if you're running, you go on Town Meeting TV and you don't get asked the same question.
Yeah.
But if you're being appointed, should we have that same expectation of them?
Right.
You know, if they choose to run afterwards, that's one thing.
Exactly.
But maybe we don't be that intense on for this situation.
It was an experience, I can tell you that.
Can you, for clarification, sorry, go ahead.
I just said, yeah, no brigades. That's weird.
For clarification, the charter doesn't stipulate the process at all. It just articulates timeline. For the most part, and that it needs to be a registered voter in Winooski. Otherwise, it's pretty high level.
It's qualified person.
Okay. So it sounds like there's 2 models, and then I think there's some precedents outside of the municipality that where appointments are made by the highest elected authority. So that, like, there is another example where that has happened. I'm only articulating that as a factual basis of something that exists within the state. Not as a matter of something that we should do ourselves, but for context of like what precedents exist, what have we seen in Winooski, and what exists in other governance frameworks.
So in that regard, actually, charter says appointed by council by majority vote. So, and that's very specific thing that you mentioned. We wouldn't have, say, the mayor appoint the vacancy.
That's helpful.
Okay.
Right.
I appreciate that. And also, majority is not unanimous.
Yep. Right.
Correct.
Yep.
So do folks like the idea of a subcommittee first and then the entire body?
How do folks feel? Time-wise?
Yeah, I think it's a timing element, really. Like, so the soonest, so say we agree that we just use the commission application and we revise it to say council interim seat. And we're able to post that tomorrow. How soon would we?
Thursday?
Walk through
Yeah.
this with me. Like, how soon would we be able to reasonably expect responses? Like next
We need a deadline.
Wednesday, next
Alright.
Thursday, and then how long does it take to schedule interviews if there is more than one interested party?
Right.
And then, in theory, it sounds like part of the hope is to have it for the 15th for a vote.
I
And the
think it's
latest,
ambitious. I think the real hope is it's the October, whatever that first meeting date is. Because
okay,
you could vote at the beginning of the agenda to appoint that person, do the swear in, and then have them engage in the rest of the meeting.
okay. That is also helpful clarity, because I was under the impression we were trying to accomplish this in less than 2 weeks.
That would be,
That would be
honestly,
lovely.
that would be lovely. But, I mean, I think that it's, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, looking at the calendar, if we say we publish it, we have until the 19th to submit. Then the subcommittee has some week, sometime within the 22nd to 26th to narrow it down. And then between the 29th and the 3rd, we have our,
Private executive session.
yeah.
I think that would make sense. You said the 19th is the end date, or?
Would that's just what
It'd
I'm
be
thinking.
like just over 2 weeks
Just
in
over.
theory.
Yeah.
If
2 weeks is a good amount of time, I feel. I think that it would give the subcommittee, if they have the week of the 22nd, I mean, if they, if there was the desire to schedule interviews, they could use that week to do it. I mean, depending on how many applications come in, heavier lift or smaller lift, but,
Yeah.
it gives more time for planning too, of like, you need to make sure if you're interested, you have to be able to make time for an interview the week of.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe note that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think, like, being on council, it's a busy situation. So
Yeah.
if we, I think we can state it in the application, but this is going to be a fast moving process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're going to be doing this after the mayor's departure, personally, I would like for the mayor to have the chance to be involved, as she served for so long and is leaving, but she won't be a member of this council on the 15th anymore. So it is what it is.
And I don't know if we're at the stage of ready to talk about subcommittee members yet. Are we moving on to that?
I mean, I think there's. Oh,
Sorry, I was just thinking one thing that we could try and do, subcommittee members tonight. It sounds like we have an application process. Maybe we could, while we're all here, schedule a special meeting, and that will either, depending on what we decide, either start with interviews of the candidates, or if folks are comfortable with the subcommittee doing the interviews, just be the discussion. But it sounds like we'll need a special meeting no matter what.
Yep.
So the week of the 29th, the special meeting.
Yeah.
I
can do almost any day.
I think I can accommodate anything that week, the 29th.
Yeah.
I think.
Do we want it, would Monday, the 29th work, or do we want more time?
I guess it depends if whoever's doing the interviews is able to have a recommendation by the 29th.
Right.
And there shouldn't be any commission conflicts that late in the month, I don't
No, I
think.
don't think so.
Downtown.
Yeah, it looks like I can't do Tuesday, but currently I could do the Monday, Wednesday, or Friday.
I could do Monday, Wednesday as well. I can do.
The idea of later in the week. Wednesday is fine.
Charlotte, how's your schedule?
The 29th through the 3rd.
Like the first or the second? Do either of those work for you?
I'm open both of those for now.
Okay. Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday, 1st or 2nd of October would work for me.
Okay.
And is there anything happening in council chambers, Elaine, that would prohibit us from using it?
Paul, would you mind looking that up?
Let me look. What were the October dates again?
1st or 2nd?
First and second. Wednesday the 1st. Wednesday the 1st is tentatively open. And then there's only a library committee meeting at the library. So that does not interfere at City Hall. So you should be okay for both of those dates.
So the 1st, 6 p.m.
Sure.
I don't know. Would Elaine, would you come to that?
Well, we would need to have at least a Zoom to.
Yeah, if you just need logistical support, I can do that. Or we can, yeah, unless Paul wants
Gavel
to.
in, gavel out type of thing. Right?
If the entire meeting is an executive session,
I think you
don't
still
know.
have to.
Okay.
So we'll have to come out of the meeting to make the official, like, this is the person that we choose. Right?
Yeah,
Right,
they'll need
yeah.
minutes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, if we do want to do any interviews as the full council, we could even do like quick 15-minute ones and get 4 people through in an hour and then have an hour to discuss fantasy world I'm living in.
But that was the subcommittee.
Yeah, so it sounds like it would, the preference would be the subcommittee does the interviews.
I think so. On that 22nd week.
We good to talk about that? No, I'm for the most part, I'm gonna be unavailable the 17th through for the most part, the 25th. So I unfortunately am not gonna be able to volunteer for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, I mean, I don't know how much precedent we'd like to set, but like if we want to say a rule, well, actually, I don't know if we'll have a deputy mayor then, but I was gonna say like the mayor and the deputy mayor would review, but we won't have a deputy mayor at that time.
Actually, I think
Are we
you're.
appointing on the 15th?
Let me see.
I can't remember where we had that placed.
I think
thought
it has
was
to
the
be
I think that's on
October,
the
yeah.
October meeting.
Yeah.
Does it have to be October?
Well,
because technically Thomas won't be mayor until September 16th.
Right.
okay.
Yes, but could you appoint ahead of time?
Feels squishy.
I'm not asking you. That's an answer.
Yeah, no, I sensed the general, but I was also
I mean, I think
preliminary.
I could do any night that week except Wednesday, so I could be free the 22nd.
I would recommend that Thomas, as incoming mayor, be member of subcommittee, since he'll be leading the body with whoever this person is.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I think,
believe that's also the precedent from before.
oh, it's from before. Yeah, I think it makes sense for the mayor to be one of the people, and then the other maybe whoever's schedule is the best.
I mean, yeah.
That's actually what happened last time too.
The only thing I would be able to accommodate is like the day of the 15th, the day of the 16th, the afternoon of the 25th, and day of the 26th.
And if we're closing at the 19th, I mean,
Yeah.
discussions
Right,
can happen
right, actually,
beforehand, but
Now that I forgot about that already.
no.
Yes.
I mean, I am out on the 25th and the 26th, but if we tell folks that week they need to be available, I think we could fit interviews in the first 3 days.
Yeah.
And ideally, if staff could send the applications to the two counselors as they come in.
We can actually just include, Paul,
Oh.
correct me if I'm wrong, they'll automatically receive.
So we can just get them in.
Yeah.
And then that way, at least
Yeah.
I'm happy to review as they come in as well. You never know.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable volunteering to be the second, but
It sounds like that may have to be what it is. The only, I'd have to be remote the 24th, and I really feel uncomfortable promising anything.
Yeah.
Without, yeah. I don't want to have to disappoint anybody by not being able to follow through.
Or we came in at the same time on this seat, so.
let's
It's a good team.
there you go.
Let's fill the seats.
You're comfortable with that, Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
Okay.
Someone in the room taking notes on these dates and times.
I was going to ask if Thomas or Christine was going to write that up. I have post application on Thursday. I'm looking at Paul. That notice will be for the interim counselor seat. And when it would expire 2027, not 2026 like I had in the cover sheet. When to be prepared for interviews, which would be the week of the 22nd.
Be 2026.
Oh, no, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
And it would be due September 19th, interviews week of 22nd, special meeting on October 1st at 6 p.m. The subcommittee is Thomas and Aurora. They'd be getting the applications directly.
You got all of the notes.
Perfect.
That's great.
So that
I mean,
does
if I may
sound.
just ask a couple of clarifying questions, just very quickly for everybody.
Please.
So Thursday's fine. You said application on Thursday. Do you mean also a just general publication of the open seat on news update, city channels?
Yeah, like a front porch forum
Yeah, I would
post,
say all regular seats.
socials. Yeah.
That's definitely easy. If we're just using very basic, very simple statute language, I would want to make quadruple sure either through Jenny's office, the clerk's office, or Elaine connecting with VLCT. If there is, if I'm hearing you right, if there is added language that we want to include, I think basic language that already exists on the council page for what the position is and how that works is okay. But if we're looking to like
Paul, I'm
make it
thinking
nicer, if you will, if that's allowed. I just want to make sure that that's allowed.
maybe some the basic language so we don't have to go through VLCT because that will slow things down. But maybe we put on the application, if there are questions, to reach out to existing counselors to find out more about the role.
And something that I just remembered, we have recorded the counselor orientations. We could even link to a past council orientation.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So if you really want to do your homework.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Which they should.
Which
they
they should.
Right?
If they're looking to come on for budget season.
Yeah, right.
It would be in their interest.
And then so for review of that language, Elaine, is that just you? I can have all of that together for.
I don't wanna.
It should go through the subcommittee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could we also, I mean, Christine, if you're willing, I think the current mayor should be included on that. This is the portion.
Yeah, I can review that stuff.
Great.
Maybe it shouldn't be a quorum.
Oh.
In an email. I mean, personally, for the language, I'd be fine if you can drop me, and I think Elaine and Christine could work on that.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
I could copy edit.
You are very good at
If you want.
Maybe Christina and Elaine can review it. You can take a look for copy editing and then send it back to them.
I support that.
Wouldn't hurt.
That works.
Yeah. Triple checking dates and links work. All that.
Yeah, I don't want to send people
Definitely
to a video
doesn't
that
hurt.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
For real.
Okay,
Great.
I think we got everything.
Oh,
I never updated this year's council orientation because we had the same council and now it's bitten me in the butt.
the one before that was good too.
It's fine. It's a little outdated data. They're not gonna remember it all anyway.
That's true.
We're not gonna quiz.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Can I make a tracking sheet?
You are more than welcome to make a tracking sheet.
I'm in the middle of interviewing all the work study students, so I'm like, I'm in it.
You're ready.
I support organization. And I like quick reference things, so I'm
Why not?
definitely Paul
Yeah, that's great.
in full support of that too.
I'll note my duties. Copy edit.
Maybe we'll refer to it for our human resources information system.
I built two of, or was brought on to help build two of those, so.
We will be in touch.
Do we need a vote on this?
Yeah.
We don't need a detailed vote, but I think a motion to approve a subcommittee of Thomas and Aurora and the timeline and steps discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Was motion by Bryn, second by Charlie?
Yep.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Our last item of business for discussion is our city manager evaluation recommendation. So Councilors Oakleaf and Hurd wonderfully volunteered to help make some updates to our city manager evaluation process following the ICMA guidance best practices update. Their recommendations are high level outlined in this memo. Elaine just had a chance to review late today and share comments that I have not reviewed, and likely most of you haven't either.
I saw them.
So I would suggest we focus on the counselor's recommendations right now, and then bring this back to the next meeting agenda, having had a chance to review our city manager's responses.
Sure.
With that, I will turn it to Bryn and Aurora, if you want to give an overview of your work here.
Sure. I'll give a really quick introduction, but Councilor Hurd put the Willman's work into this, so I don't want to steal Councilor Hurd's thunder by any means. But it was great to work on this together. I think we came to some really good consensus. We also flagged some additional items for consideration that weren't necessarily called out in our charging orders that I think will be beneficial just to coalesce on once again. We referenced the ICMA as requested by the meeting earlier in August, focused on strategies and priorities set each calendar year by council, adjusted the questions so that there were 10 or fewer questions and that used a Likert scale. We emphasized the council contribution while still allowing for some staff feedback to be offered, though at a reduced scale. Again, just noting some additional areas that council may benefit from discussing and reviewing, again, with Elaine's input, as I think outlined in the memo that was sent just before the meeting tonight. So I again want to thank Councilor Hurd for doing a significant job to tee this up for council tonight, and really making the bulk of the revisions, proposing, but in collaboration, just in a short timeline, honestly. So I'll leave it at that and let you do the walkthrough, I guess.
Sure, yeah, and I really appreciate that. It was very much, I sat and I did a bunch of things and I was like, okay, gotta get that second opinion. So yeah, definitely appreciate the collaboration on this. Bryn really covered most of it. One of the things I do want to highlight is moving away from the 1 to 5 stars back to the Likert scale model. Just hoping that gives like a little bit more detailed feedback, or hopefully that helps with it. And also just kind of cleaned up like how it looked. And let me pull up the eval itself. So we did decide to keep the staff portion, but with that suggestion of maybe in the future, and I think with only a brief skim of what Elaine sent, thinking about at some point having some regular third party, so we'd be able to do like a traditional 360 evaluation, considering in a lot of settings, a manager like this would have that 360, and the feedback from staff would really just go to the manager or go to that third party, and not necessarily, there isn't necessarily a council body that would view it. So trying to kind of walk that edge of not like overemphasizing that, but at least for now continuing to keep some staff feedback specifically around supervision, because that's not something that council gets as much in-depth view, and thinking if they did get that view, it might be just a staff member talking to them, which then, isn't very equitable. So trying to keep equity in mind of sending this out. Also, by reducing the staff questions, hopefully will make it easier for staff to fill out in busy schedules. So that was really the goal with the staff portion. And yeah, we left it like 3 bullet points within a Likert scale, and then leaving the same general feedback questions that council got. For council, it is more in depth, though this is a pretty significant reduction of the original questions. So hopefully just feels in general more streamlined, and any additional like wording comments, definitely open to. Bryn and I tried to bring more into, as already mentioned, the strategies and priorities piece, as well as this like master plan, which is no longer going to be called the master plan. So that might be language to flag. But yeah, really trying to drill down. And there are a couple of questions that felt like very subjective and leaning into that, like the warning of like the popularity contest. So really trying to eliminate those that felt subjective, and also thinking of it with that higher view of Elaine is in like for all city managers, not just Elaine, and making sure that that is capturing everything, and putting in some language as like that reminder of really including council's direct observations as much as possible. So that's kind of the overall rundown. Most of the Likert scale has 4 pieces at the most, 2 at the least. And this was something that like I did an initial like go through and remove things, and then Brynn and I really sat with what was left, how they were worded, and where it might best fit. So I'm hoping that this feels pretty good. And again, it's the Likert scale, and then at the end, the general feedback. These open-ended questions we removed, I believe 2 or 3, to leave these, and reworded a couple of them, again, to try and generate specific feedback and positive feedback. So both like more constructive and being able to uplift the positive examples too.
Yep.
So that is my rundown. Let me know. Yeah, let us know about questions, at least for this part, and we can discuss it more next meeting with Elaine's feedback.
Oh, ton of work, and it looks so much cleaner. I greatly appreciate that. Questions on maybe specifically question 5, but just in general, the kind of thought about council and hearing, having conversations with staff or with residents. As a volunteer body, we don't really see Elaine that often outside of this meeting. If you're able to go to an event and Elaine is also able to go to an event, then you might see Elaine out interacting with residents. I'm sorry, I actually want to keep this broad, not just Elaine, any city manager, right?
Yeah.
So there's many, there's, I'm not going to say reference studies, I'm not sure, but frequently when somebody's supervisor is around, they tend to behave differently than when their supervisor is not around. So I value feedback from staff and residents because it's behaviors that we possibly would not see from somebody that we technically supervise. And staff and residents encounter the person that we supervise, hire, however you want to phrase it, or doing the evaluation for way more than we do. So, a lot of times I find it is difficult for me to do these surveys that speak about how does city manager, handle leadership. I forget what the questions are, but how does, the city manager handle situations with staff? I don't know. I'm not here. I don't see what the city manager does. But staff does. Staff directly sees that. And if staff has a problem with the city manager or has some places where they would like the city manager to grow, we're the body that the city manager reports to. The city manager doesn't report to anybody else on staff. So I worry that we are taking away staff's ability to air grievances or concerns if we're putting in this document that we don't really want to hear from staff or residents.
I will say the purpose of this is our evaluation. Staff and residents can come to us outside of this. This isn't supposed to be like a tool for like punishment or noting down. It's for us as council to put down what we see. If we get additional stuff outside, if someone has a grievance, they can bring it to us outside of it. That's I guess my initial response is trying to like, it is part of it's more of like a constant improvement and learning tool rather than a like I think kind of taking it out of or a feeling of I'm not sure I'm quite wording this right. Christine, I noticed that you had a comment just I think.
Yeah, so in that vein, I think the section for staff, I think it's number 9 with the staff questions about supervision. I think that still allows us to collect feedback from them. I think the wording in this one about relationship with city residents, first I would broaden that to constituents, because we also have like business owners and partners that we work with that aren't necessarily residents. I think the first one in there demonstrates dedication to service to the community and its residents. Does sort of capture like, we may not frequently observe our managers' direct interactions with folks, but we might be copied on emails with them. We might hear from constituents. And maybe the like underlying text there could be adjusted, because there's something about keeping in mind the breadth of the feedback you hear and not getting hung up on individual things, and also like specific scenarios. Because I've gotten complaints before about members of staff because the person didn't get the outcome they wanted, not because the staff wasn't handling it correctly, you know? And so I think maybe adjusting the language in some way to reflect that.
I like that idea, and it ties into, I think, actually what we were talking about, like the reason that we see this request for change in, say, parking fines is because there's a pattern. So I think applying some of that thinking of like, do we see a pattern, or did one person have an experience that they didn't like because they didn't get the outcome they like and they decided to tell us? Like thinking of that part too, of exactly, I think what Christine was saying, of like there's our role as a manager, I think, is, I don't know how to say this, like it is like it's a specific responsibility that is a little bit different from the way that some of our other duties are done. I'm not sure I'm wording this correctly, but really, again, thinking about what really struck me about the best practices was this idea of a popularity contest, and the way that is, right, like that's talking to an inequity and how to make it more equitable. And again, like, how do we make this not something that Elaine dreads, but that Elaine is like, this is some great feedback that I'm getting, both in the like positive, here are things I should do more, and the like, oh, this might be an area that I want to shift, and I will work with the council on kind of what that looks like, what that follow-up looks like.
And just to add something real quick, so with the ICMA, and I briefly skimmed the memo that Elaine wrote, I think ICMA also recommends like a pre-meeting that council has before completing the evaluation. So I do think that there is opportunity to have an additional conversation, cohesion of like, how should we, as like a refresher, you know, I mean, we're talking about it now, but we're going to have a new counselor soon.
Yeah.
But have a refresher for those and an introduction for the new counselor of like, this is how we should approach this. This is how it should be interpreted. So there is an opportunity to have some additional discussion and conversation before, and that is even recommended by ICMA. So like, while we want to have this be a perfect tool, I think it was inherently imperfect, and we can strive for that perfection. And I do note that there's more work to be done to kind of polish this up, and that it's not ready. We haven't been able to incorporate Elaine's feedback yet. But I just wanted to call that out, that there is, as part of the process changes and process improvements, is having that pre-meeting with council before, like very shortly before the evaluation is complete.
Oh, that's good too.
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think that's a really good point, because that can get to Thomas's concern of like, that might be like, hey, I heard this from a resident. are you all hearing the same thing, or is this an outlier? Like, that might be able to help us like differentiate some of the things that we are hearing. So making sure that residents still feel heard, but that we're doing it in a manner that's equitable to the rest of the residents and Elaine.
Okay, and I appreciate you and Christine kind of explaining that, because the way I'm reading this is like, if 30 residents tell you that the city manager ignores them at events, I don't want to hear that from you. You just need to tell me what you've seen. Like, that's how it reads. So to understand that you mean that it's like one or like, yeah, if one person tells me something, that's one person, but so that's all. This read to me that it was like, don't listen to residents, only go off of what you know.
Yeah, and I think we
I
can
appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, and I think we can add some additional clarification there. So ICMA, you know, there's the tool itself, and then there's some additional procedure changes. And I think recurring check-ins is one of the other ones that was mentioned. We flagged in our memo, and I think it may be a moot point, but timing. And for council, this is on the heels of budget season where I think we feel stressed and we feel exhausted, and it may not be the case for the city manager. But that was another element of like ICMA recommended, like, be very cognizant of like when you're doing this. Obviously, we want to maximize the amount of time with an existing council before there's turnover. But so there's the tool itself, and then there's procedural improvements that we didn't articulate in the memo thoroughly, but that I think should be incorporated.
I mean, I think it makes sense to do. Sorry, I think it makes sense to do this more than just once a year.
I believe that's in the memo.
Having
check-ins.
Because one frequent thing, and the benefit of it coming off a budget is, you know, that section that's like, what did the city manager do well? It's like, oh my God, they did such a great job with the budget. They did what we asked, blah, blah, etc. But we forget all the other stuff because the budget is all that we have on our mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, even if it was like a 6 month and then the year, we would remember more things to talk about. And also, if there was something that anybody was concerned about, there's time to re-talk about that again.
And I think the tool, the ICMA guidance document, you know, really emphasizes like this is an opportunity to offer that continuous improvement, the feedback, and check-in points, and a place to also celebrate achievements.
Yes.
Just as any of our other personal, professional evaluations might feel. This is like, because we're council and because we're kind of approaching this as a cohesive review panel, it feels different than like your singular supervisor. So, but emphasizing that there is a lot that goes into having opportunities for that feedback throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think something that Elaine might have mentioned in their memo, but again, kind of something that's pinging for me just in general too, is we're asking for staff feedback, but also getting feedback from Elaine too.
Yes.
Of like,
good point.
Yeah, because Elaine, or taking Elaine out of it, the city manager is the one who's spending the most time with themselves, seeing how people are reacting and stuff like that. So I definitely, and I'm thinking too, some of the things we talked about when we were reviewing this, that was really helpful for Elaine to be like, this was the context, this was happening, this is what I realized. So being able to give that formal place that can then spark like the additional review.
I did want to ask, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask, are there additional questions? Like, granted, like council can opt to dive into it now, or we can do it at our next meeting. Are there additional questions or suggestions with what is in the tool, right, that we are proposing that you would want to see, that flag for discussion now, or to call out as something that
any other yikes moments?
Yeah.
Because Thomas, I think Yeah, with 5. That was a very valid yikes moment.
I was like, I know you all. I know you don't want to not listen to our residents. Like that's what. No, I mean, there's really. I see that you put a lot of work into it. The other document was sometimes you felt like you're answering the same question 3 times.
Yeah. That was it too. I was like, what does this even mean?
Yeah, we
Right.
had a number of those moments where, what are we,
Who are
what
you?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think you were alluding to this of thinking of giving Elaine the same form and having
Or
them
something
feed it out, or
similar,
the city manager doing.
Yeah.
In that case, I feel like for the city manager, it would be good to add to their form, or just add it and say it's only for them. Is there anything you need from council to continue to grow in your job, or something along those lines?
That's a good addition.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I think something that came up with Councilor Leaf and I as we're talking is like, this is very much, this process in itself is hopefully continuous improvement, and like one way that we can model that and make it a partnership with the city manager.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I agree. Like, I think this condensing of the content works really well. I feel like the key things that we need to look at are captured, the strategies and priorities are better represented in like what council can observe. It sounds like in a follow-up discussion, well, so some work could be done to do some wordsmithing on the relationship with residents section, and then in follow-up, we can more clearly document the process, just to make it crystal clear, like this pre-meeting occurs for this purpose. We're gonna ask the city manager to provide this input. And I think I would suggest too, the ICMA guide has like an agenda for the evaluation discussion, that we pull that into so that future mayors going forward have that as a quick reference as well. Oh, and then we should revisit the timing discussion that you brought up here.
Yeah, and I think Elaine has some notes on it, so maybe that'll be core for next time.
Does it make sense? I don't know procedurally if we should have an executive session next on the 15th to walk through any of this, or I don't know if it's.
I'll discuss with Elaine.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Owen, do you want to add? I know you sent us the emails.
Yeah, I don't need to now. Thank you, though.
Awesome. We need to vote? No, just
But it
discuss
sounds like as a body, generally, we're good with what's being proposed here, and then we'll do some more work on it after you've had a chance to review Elaine's input.
I do appreciate the work. Some councils don't, so thank you. Not just for myself, for future also.
We still have one member of the public.
Thanks. Any public comment, questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Aurora and/or Bryn, would you be able to do some wordsmithing on that relationship with residents section in time for the next meeting?
In time for the next meeting, yes.
So I believe that council's directed to have our materials ready by Wednesday midday. Is that correct?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
Although
So it
the
would be
general
like
rule, it doesn't actually
next
have to.
Wednesday. Is that right? Or am I?
Yes, yeah. Although honestly, it's not like I'm going to do any edits to it, so Thursday would also work.
I just want to be mindful of
Yeah.
regular procedures.
Yep. Yeah, I think Wendy put into place the Wednesday deadline, and I let it slide because staff is never able to do that except under exceptional circumstances when we really
Yeah.
have to.
But I think like for council, we try to make sure you have materials, so.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, that'd be good.
And I'm available. Too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll try and edit it and then send it to you.
Okay, we'll aim for next Wednesday midday or Wednesday noon, just to be specific. And if we, for some reason, have some delays, we'll give you a notice about it.
Great.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
That's it.
Well, we have reached the end of this evening's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Heard a motion by Bryn. Was there a second?
Second.
Second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Long meeting.